Mina's singing had begun to draw attention from more than just the people passing by. One bright morning, as she played her usual spot near the market, a woman stopped and listened quietly. Her name was Sarah, and she was a music teacher who had recently moved to the town. She had heard Mina's songs from a distance and felt a strong pull to come closer. There was something in the girl's voice, a raw emotion and courage that touched Sarah deeply. Sarah stood near the edge of the crowd, observing Mina carefully. She noticed how Mina's fingers moved over the worn strings of her guitar with precision, how her eyes sparkled when she sang, and how her small frame carried such determination. It was clear to Sarah that Mina had a natural talent, a gift that could grow with guidance and training. She waited until Mina finished a song before speaking. "Hello," Sarah said softly, so as not to startle her. Mina looked up, surprised to see a stranger smiling at her. "Hello?" Mina replied politely, keeping her hands on her guitar. Sarah knelt slightly to be at Mina's eye level.
"Your singing is beautiful."
"You have a special voice. Would you like to learn more about music?" she asked gently. Mina blinked, unsure how to respond. She had never thought anyone would notice her talent in that way. Her songs were always about her mother and survival, not about recognition or learning from a teacher. I want to help my mother," she said quietly. "I don't know if I can do more than that," Sarah smiled kindly. "I understand, Mina. Helping your mother is important and I admire your courage. But learning music can help you in both ways. It can make your singing stronger, and maybe it can also help you earn more to support your family. I can teach you and work with you so that you can do both." Mina's eyes widened with hope. She had always wanted to improve, to make her songs sound better and reach more people, but she had thought that was impossible because she had to focus on her mother and survive each day. Now someone was offering her a chance to grow her talent without neglecting her responsibilities. Sarah offered to come to Mina's home after school hours to give her lessons. She promised that she would not take too much time and that Mina could still care for her mother. Mina thought about it carefully, imagining herself learning new songs, playing her guitar with more skill, and singing with even more confidence. She nodded slowly. "I will try," she said softly, a small smile appearing on her face. The next few days were filled with excitement. Sarah visited Mina's home, teaching her how to hold the guitar more comfortably, how to improve her voice, and how to play new melodies. Mina practiced diligently, eager to learn everything. Her mother, Layla, watched proudly, knowing that her daughter's hard work and talent were beginning to open doors she had never dreamed of. Mina began to notice changes in herself as well. Her song sounded richer and more confident. When she sang on the street, more people stopped to listen. Some gave coins, others offered kind words, and some even asked when she would perform again. Mina realized that her music could touch hearts and inspire hope in more people than she had ever imagined. The lessons with Sarah also taught Mina about discipline and patience. Learning new songs and techniques was not always easy, and sometimes Mina grew frustrated when she could not get a note right. But Sarah encouraged her gently, reminding her that every mistake was a step toward improvement. Mina's determination grew stronger and her love for music deepened. By the end of the week, Mina felt proud of herself. She had learned more in a few days than she had imagined possible. Her confidence grew and her heart felt lighter. She realized that her courage, combined with new opportunities, could help her overcome the challenges of life. Mina understood that this was only the beginning. Her journey was far from over, but with her talent, determination, and the support of kind people like Sarah, she knew that brighter days were ahead. She was ready to face them, singing her songs of hope and love for everyone to hear. Months passed, and Mina's life began to change in ways she had only dreamed of. With Sarah's help, her singing improved greatly. She learned new songs, better techniques, and how to express her emotions more clearly through music. Her small guitar, once worn and simple, now carried melodies that drew the attention of everyone who passed by. Mina felt proud of herself, but more than pride, she felt hope. Her mother, Layla, was feeling stronger as well. The regular supply of medicine, thanks to the kindness of Omar and the other townspeople, helped her recover gradually. Layla could walk around the house without pain, and even help Mina prepare small meals for the day. Seeing her mother smile again filled Mina's heart with joy. She realized that her hard work, courage, and persistence were making a real difference. Every day, Mina went to her usual corner near the market. She would sit, place her tin cup carefully in front of her, and begin to play. But now things were different. People stopped more often, drawn by her improved voice and heartfelt songs. Children clapped along, shopkeepers smiled, and strangers dropped coins into her cup, some even leaving small notes of encouragement. Mina's music had begun to touch the hearts of the town. Her voice was no longer just a tool for survival. It had become a source of joy and inspiration. One afternoon, Omar visited Mina again. He smiled warmly and said, "Look at how far you have come, Mina. You are helping your mother, bringing happiness to the town and inspiring people with your courage. You should be proud." Mina blushed and nodded, feeling both happy and shy. She realized that her life was changing, but it was still her determination and love for her mother that guided every action she took. Sarah continued to teach her after school, and Mina's talent grew. She began performing at small events organized by the townspeople, earning enough to cover her mother's medicine and save a little for the future. With each performance, her confidence increased, and she found that her music could not only help her family, but also encourage others to be brave, kind, and hopeful. Mina often thought back to the days when no one noticed her on the sidewalk. She remembered the long hours in the sun and rain, the cold mornings, and the nights when she worried about her mother's health. Those difficult times had taught her patience, courage, and the importance of never giving up. Now every coin, every smile, and every kind word she received felt like a reward for her persistence. Her story began to spread throughout the town. People admired the young girl who had faced hardship with a brave heart and a gentle smile. Mina's singing had become a symbol of hope, showing that even in the hardest times, love, determination, and courage could create change. People started sharing her story with others, and soon, more opportunities opened up for her to perform and inspire. At home, Layla watched her daughter with pride. "You have done more than I ever imagined, Mina," she said softly. "Your music has healed hearts, including mine. You are my strength and my hope." Mina hugged her mother tightly, feeling happiness fill every corner of her small heart. She knew that the future would still have challenges, but she also knew that together, they could face anything. Mina continued to sing every day, not just for coins or medicine, but for the joy it brought to herself, her mother, and everyone around her. Her life, once filled with struggle and uncertainty, was now full of hope, laughter, and love. Mina had learned that courage, determination, and kindness could open doors to a brighter tomorrow. And so, the young girl who once sang quietly on the sidewalk to help her mother grew into a source of hope and inspiration for the entire town. Her songs reached hearts far beyond her little corner, and her story became a reminder to everyone. Even the smallest voice, when combined with love and courage, can make a big difference. Mina smiled as she played her guitar, her heart full of gratitude. The streets were no longer just a place of survival. They were a stage for her dreams, a place where hope could shine and a reminder that perseverance always leads to brighter days. Mira was known in her small town as a quiet and humble woman. She worked in a little bakery on the corner street where the smell of fresh bread greeted people every morning. Customers liked her because she was always kind, always smiling, and always ready to help anyone who came through the door. Yet even though many respected her gentle nature, there were also some who thought of her as a plain person who lived a simple life without any excitement. Mira never argued with anyone about how they saw her. She believed that actions spoke louder than words. Still, she often felt that people judged her too quickly. They saw her soft voice and calm ways and decided she could never do anything bold or surprising. One Saturday, her friend Rosa walked into the bakery with bright energy in her steps. She leaned on the counter and said, "Mira, I want you to come with me this afternoon. We're going to the shooting range. You should come too." Mira blinked in surprise. She had never held a gun before. The very idea felt unusual to her. "Me at a shooting range," she said with a soft laugh. "I don't think I can do that." Rosa shook her head with a smile. "It will be fun. You don't have to be perfect. Just come and try it once. You never know, maybe you'll enjoy it." Mira thought about it for a while. She trusted Rosa, and she also knew she rarely tried anything new outside her work. Her life was predictable, the same from morning till evening. Perhaps stepping into something different would be good. At last she agreed. "All right, I'll come. But don't laugh if I miss the target." Later that day, they arrived at the shooting range. The place was filled with the sharp sounds of gunshots. Targets were lined up and groups of people were practicing with focus. Some of the men in the group were already showing off, cheering loudly when they hit near the center. They laughed with each other and made little jokes to impress the others. When Mira walked in beside Rosa, the mood shifted slightly. A few heads turned. She was dressed in her simple sweater and neat jeans, looking like someone who had wandered into the wrong place. The men whispered among themselves and some began to chuckle. One man nudged his friend and said loud enough for Mira to hear, "Is she really going to try shooting? She looks like she might drop the gun." Another added, "Careful, everyone. She might scream at the sound." Their laughter spread quickly and Mira could feel her cheeks grow warm. She lowered her eyes and stood close to Rosa, trying not to let their words sink too deep. Rosa frowned and whispered, "Don't mind them. Just focus on yourself." Mira nodded. She stayed silent and watched as others took turns. She noticed how they held their guns, the way they placed their feet, how they pulled the trigger slowly rather than quickly. She observed every little detail with sharp eyes. While the others thought she was timid, she was actually studying carefully. Finally, it was her turn. The instructor handed her the gun. It felt heavier than she expected, almost as if it carried more weight than just steel. For a moment, her hands trembled. The laughter from earlier echoed in her mind and she almost stepped back. But then another thought rose in her heart. She remembered the many times customers or strangers had called her a simple woman, as if her life and skills were too small to matter. She remembered how often she was overlooked, as if being gentle meant being weak. Mira straightened her shoulders. She wrapped her hands firmly around the grip and positioned herself the way she had seen others do. Her breathing slowed. The chatter in the room seemed to fade as she concentrated only on the target ahead. The men who had mocked her earlier leaned forward with grins, expecting a clumsy mistake. They waited for the loud noise of a gunshot followed by laughter at her poor aim. But Rosa, standing close by, watched Mira with faith. She could see that her friend was taking it seriously. The room grew quiet. Mira raised the gun, her eyes locked on the target. She felt her heartbeat in her chest, but she did not let fear control her. She was ready to show that a quiet woman could surprise the loudest crowd. And with her finger on the trigger, the moment everyone was waiting for had finally arrived. The shooting range fell into silence as Mira held the gun in her hands. Her arms were steady, her eyes fixed on the target and her breath slow and calm. She squeezed the trigger with careful control. The sound of the shot cracked through the room and the bullet flew straight to the target board. When the smoke cleared, everyone turned to look. The bullet had landed right near the center. Not a perfect bullseye, but close enough to surprise everyone. A wave of murmurs spread through the group. Some widened their eyes, others raised their brows in disbelief. Mira lowered the gun, unsure if she had done well or not. But Rosa clapped loudly with pride. "That was amazing, Mira," Rosa said. The men who had laughed earlier gave each other puzzled looks. One of them shrugged and said, "Beginner's luck. Let's see if she can do it again." Mira heard the words but did not let them bother her. She stepped forward again, this time with more confidence. She aimed once more, adjusted her grip just as she had observed, and fired. Another shot echoed, and once again the bullet struck near the center. The whispers grew louder now. Someone muttered, "No way she can keep this up." The instructor stepped closer, watching her with interest. He had trained many people at the range before, but it was rare to see someone so calm on their first day. He noticed that Mira was not rushing or letting her nerves control her. She was patient, careful, and focused. Mira loaded again and prepared for her third shot. She closed out the noise around her, remembering the rhythm of her breathing. Slowly in, slowly out, eyes on the target. She squeezed the trigger. The bullet flew, and this time it landed in the bullseye. A clean shot, gasps filled the room. Rosa cheered with joy, clapping her hands together. Mira's lips curved into a small smile. She felt a warmth in her chest, not from pride in showing others wrong, but from the simple truth that she could do something she had never imagined herself capable of. The men who had mocked her were no longer laughing. Their grins had faded, replaced by tight jaws and watchful eyes. One crossed his arms and said firmly, "All right, she got one in the bullseye. Let's see if she can repeat that." "Nobody can do it again and again." Mira did not reply. She had no interest in arguing. Instead, she focused on the target again. She fired and another bullseye appeared. The instructor raised his eyebrows, impressed. She fired again, another bullseye. By the fifth shot, the room was no longer filled with laughter but with silence and awe. Rosa leaned closer and whispered, "Mira, you're incredible. Look at their faces. They didn't expect this from you at all." Mira nodded softly. She did not need to look at the men to know that they were shocked. Every shot she took seemed to challenge their words from earlier. They had called her simple, weak, and unfit for the range, but each bullseye was proving them wrong. By her 7th and 8th shots, people had gathered behind to watch. Even those who were practicing on other sides of the range paused to see the quiet woman, who was hitting target after target with calm precision. The instructor could not hide his admiration. "Your control is rare," he told her. "Most first-timers rush, but you shoot with patience. It's natural talent." The 9th shot flew and struck right in the middle. Mira kept her focus steady as ever. She raised the gun one last time for her 10th shot. The entire group held their breath. The men who had mocked her now leaned forward, waiting for her to miss so they could save their pride. But Rosa's hands were clasped together as if she already knew the result. Mira took her time, her eyes clear and her breathing even. She pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang out and the bullet landed perfectly in the center. 10 shots, 10 bullseyes. The target board told the story better than words ever could. The room burst into noise. Some clapped, others gasped, and Rosa hugged her tightly. Mira lowered the gun and looked at the board, her heart light and steady. For the first time, she felt like people were seeing her not as a simple woman, but as someone who had strength, focus, and skill. The men who had mocked her earlier stood silent, their faces red with embarrassment. They could not believe what had just happened. The woman they had laughed at had done what none of them could. Mira quietly handed the gun back to the instructor. She did not boast or laugh at those who had mocked her. She simply smiled, her calm voice steady as she said, "Thank you for letting me try." Everyone now looked at her differently, and the story of that day was only beginning. After Mira's perfect 10 shots, the atmosphere of the shooting range completely changed. Only minutes earlier, she had been the subject of whispers and laughter, but now every eye looked at her with respect and surprise. Rosa stood proudly beside her, while the instructor kept nodding as though he had just discovered a hidden treasure. The men who had mocked her could no longer hide their embarrassment. They tried to laugh it off, saying things like, "She just got lucky today," or "Anyone can do it if they get enough tries." But deep down they knew what had happened was far from luck. Mira had done what most of them had never managed to achieve. Rosa leaned toward Mira and whispered, "Did you see their faces when you hit the 10th bullseye? You could have heard a pin drop." Mira smiled softly but stayed humble. "It was just focus and patience. I watched and learned." The instructor stepped forward and addressed Mira directly. "You have something rare. Most beginners struggle to hit the target at all. But you not only hit it, you controlled yourself better than many experienced shooters. Have you ever practiced before?" Mira shook her head. "No, this was my first time." The instructor looked amazed. "Then you have natural skill. If you keep training, you could compete in real tournaments. Not everyone can do what you just did." At those words, the group fell quiet again. A few of the men exchanged uneasy glances. It was one thing for Mira to succeed today, but the idea that she might actually be better than them in the long run was not easy for their pride. One man, tall and proud, crossed his arms and stepped forward. "If she thinks she's so good, maybe she should compete against me. Let's see if she can still do it when she has someone serious next to her." The challenge hung in the air. Rosa frowned, ready to tell him off, but Mira simply looked at him with calm eyes. She was not afraid. "If you want me to try again, I don't mind," she said quietly. The instructor, sensing the tension, decided to make it fair. He set up 2 fresh targets side by side. "All right," he said. 10 shots each. Let's see how you both do. Remember, this is about skill and focus, not pride." The crowd gathered again, eager to see the outcome. Rosa whispered, "You don't have to prove anything, Mira. You already showed them what you can do." Mira gave her friend a gentle nod. "I know, but sometimes silence is not enough. Sometimes you must let your actions speak." The contest began. The man lifted his gun confidently and fired his first shot. It landed near the center and his friends clapped. Mira took her turn calmly, breathing in and out before pulling the trigger. Her bullet struck the bullseye cleanly and the crowd gasped again. The man narrowed his eyes and fired again. Another near-center hit, but not perfect. Mira followed with another bullseye. Shot after shot, the two went back and forth. The man grew tense with each round, sweat forming on his forehead. He was trying harder now, but his hands shook slightly from the pressure. Mira, on the other hand, remained steady. Her face was calm, her breathing smooth, her movements precise. By the 7th shot, it was clear to everyone who was ahead. The man had only managed 3 bullseyes, while Mira had landed all 7 perfectly. Rosa's smile grew wider with each success. They wanted to laugh at you, Mira, but now they can't even look you in the eye. The final shot sealed the contest. The man ended with 4 bullseyes out of 10. Mira ended with another perfect row of 10. The difference was clear. The instructor raised Mira's hand slightly like a champion. She wins. And it's no question about luck. This is skill. The room erupted in mixed sounds. Some clapped for Mira, admiring her calm strength, while others shook their heads, unable to accept what they had witnessed. The man who had challenged her lowered his gun, his pride wounded, and stepped back without a word. Mira, however, did not gloat or celebrate loudly. She simply placed the gun back on the table and said, "Thank you for the match." Her calmness made her victory even more powerful. People respected her not only for her skill, but for the grace with which she carried it. As they left the range that evening, Rosa could not stop smiling. "Mira, you've changed the way they see you forever. No one will ever call you simple again." Mira looked at the fading sunset with quiet eyes. "It doesn't matter what they call me. What matters is knowing what I can do." And in that moment, she realized this day had not only surprised others, but had also awakened something inside her she never knew existed. The story of Mira's victory at the shooting range spread quickly through the small town. By the next morning, people at the bakery were already whispering about it while buying bread. Customers who once only spoke about muffins and loaves were now asking, "Mira, is it true you hit every bullseye?" Mira would smile politely and answer, "I just focused and tried my best." She never bragged. Yet her modest answers only made people more curious. Some customers looked at her differently now, as if she had suddenly gained a hidden strength they had never noticed before. Rosa enjoyed every moment of it. She told the story to anyone who asked, describing in detail how Mira had stood calmly, how the men had laughed at her, and how silence had filled the room when she hit bullseye after bullseye. "You should have seen her," Rosa would say with excitement. She was like a statue, steady and sure. None of them could believe their eyes. At first, Mira felt shy about all the attention. She had lived most of her life quietly, never standing out, never drawing crowds. But now people admired her for something she had never even thought she could do. Deep inside, she felt proud, but she also reminded herself to stay grounded. One afternoon, the shooting range instructor himself came to the bakery. He ordered bread, then leaned across the counter. "Mira, I meant what I said yesterday. You have natural skill. If you train regularly, you could become one of the best. There are competitions you could enter and you would surprise a lot of people." Mira hesitated. The thought of competing in front of crowds seemed overwhelming. She had only just discovered this talent, and the idea of turning it into something serious was difficult to imagine. "I don't know," she said gently. "I just wanted to try it once." The instructor smiled. "Think about it. People like you who stay calm under pressure are rare. Shooting is not only about the hand, but about the mind, and you have the mind for it." After he left, Mira thought about his words for a long time. Rosa, who had been nearby, nudged her playfully. "You should do it, Mira. Imagine the look on their faces when you win a real medal. You're already better than half the people at the range." Mira laughed softly, but she could not ignore the seed that had been planted in her thoughts. Maybe she could test herself further. Maybe she could see how far her quiet strength could take her. A week later, Mira returned to the shooting range, this time on her own. She rented a lane, picked up a gun, and began to practice. The instructor noticed her and came over, offering tips and gentle guidance. Day after day, she kept coming back, balancing her bakery work with training. At first, she struggled with long-distance targets. Hitting the center from far away was harder, and her arms grew tired after holding the heavy gun for so long. But Mira did not give up. She practiced with patience, repeating each movement until it felt natural. The same men who had mocked her before sometimes came to the range while she was practicing. They no longer laughed. Instead, they watched in silence, and a few even tried to copy her calm breathing style. Mira never said a word to them, but her steady improvement spoke louder than anything else. One evening, Rosa visited the range and was shocked by Mira's progress. "You've gotten even better," she said. "Your shots are cleaner, faster, and stronger. Mira, you have to join the town competition next month. You can't hide your gift anymore." Mira paused. The idea of standing in a public competition made her heart beat faster, but she also remembered the feeling of that first bullseye, the power of proving to herself what she was capable of. She realized that this was no longer about others mocking her. It was about her own journey, her own discovery of what she could achieve if she believed in herself. Finally, she said, "All right, I'll do it. I'll join the competition." Rosa clapped her hands with joy. "That's the spirit. I'll be there cheering for you louder than anyone." The instructor overheard their conversation and gave Mira an approving nod. "Good choice. You're ready for it, and I'll help you prepare." From that day, Mira's evenings were no longer quiet. They were filled with the steady sound of practice shots, the smell of gunpowder, and the determination of a woman who was no longer just simple in the eyes of others. She was becoming someone stronger, someone who carried her silence like armor and her focus like a sharp blade. And as the date of the town competition drew closer, everyone began to wonder if Mira's calm power could shine even brighter in front of a crowd. The weeks passed quickly, and the day of the town shooting competition finally arrived. Mira woke up early that morning with a mix of calmness and nervousness in her heart. She prepared the bakery as usual, making sure the bread was ready for customers, but her thoughts were already at the competition. Rosa came to pick her up, full of excitement. "Mira, today is your day," Rosa said with a wide smile. "You'll show the whole town what you can do." Mira gave a small smile in return. "I'll try my best. That's all anyone can do." When they reached the competition grounds, the place was buzzing with people. Families had gathered, children ran around with snacks, and participants were checking their equipment. Mira looked around quietly, taking in the lively scene. She saw experienced shooters polishing their guns, adjusting their gear, and talking confidently with each other. Compared to them, she looked simple, with no fancy equipment or special outfit, only her steady hands and calm spirit. As she walked forward, some of the competitors noticed her. A few recognized her from the shooting range incident and whispered among themselves, "That's the woman who hit 10 bullseyes," one said. Another replied, "It must have been luck. Let's see how she does in a real contest." Mira heard the words but did not let them touch her heart. She had learned to let actions speak louder. The instructor was present as one of the judges, and when he saw Mira, he gave her an encouraging nod. Rosa stood at the sidelines waving excitedly. "I'll be cheering for you," she shouted. The competition began with the first round. Participants had to fire 5 shots at a medium-distance target. Mira waited for her turn, watching the others carefully. Some hit well, some missed, and the crowd reacted with cheers or sighs. When her name was called, Mira stepped forward. She held the gun with steady hands, closed out the noise, and focused on her breathing. Her first shot hit near the bullseye. The second landed right in the center. By the time she finished her 5th shot, 4 were in the bullseye and 1 just near it. The crowd clapped in surprise, and even the judges exchanged impressed looks. Rosa jumped with joy. "That's my Mira," she shouted proudly. As the rounds went on, the difficulty increased. Targets were moved farther and the pressure grew. Many competitors began to lose focus under the crowd's eyes, but Mira stayed calm. She treated every shot like she was alone at the range, her world shrinking to the simple rhythm of breathing and pulling the trigger. By the 3rd round, only a few participants remained. Mira was among them. The crowd now watched her closely, their earlier doubt replaced with admiration. Whispers of "she's really good" spread across the field. In the 4th round, the challenge was tougher than ever. 10 shots at long distance. Mira's competitor beside her was one of the men who had once laughed at her. He had trained for years and carried himself with confidence. He gave Mira a quick look and said, "This is where beginners fall apart." Mira did not reply. She simply lifted her gun and began. One shot after another, her bullets struck the target cleanly. 8 of them landed in the bullseye, and 2 were close enough to count as near perfect. The crowd gasped and applauded loudly. Her competitor, however, missed 3 shots, his nerves clearly shaking him. When the results were read, Mira's name was at the top. Rosa clapped until her hands hurt, shouting louder than anyone. "She did it! She's leading!" Now the final round approached. The last challenge was the hardest, moving targets. Participants had to hit 5 moving discs. something that required speed as well as focus. Mira had never tried moving targets before, and for a moment doubt tried to enter her heart. Could she really do this? Rosa noticed her silence and leaned close. Mira, remember what you always do. You don't rush. You breathe, you focus, and you trust yourself. That's all you need. Mira nodded. She stepped forward when her name was called. The discs began to move quickly across the range. The first one flew past, and with a steady aim, Mira hit it. The crowd cheered. The second moved faster, but again her bullet struck true. The third and fourth followed, both perfect hits. Now only the last disc remained, the fastest and hardest. The entire crowd held its breath as Mira focused. She narrowed her eyes, waited for the right moment, and pulled the trigger. The bullet flew and the disc shattered into pieces. The crowd erupted in cheers. Rosa ran forward, her voice echoing above all. The judges announced the final scores, and Mira was declared the winner of the competition. For a moment, Mira stood still, taking it all in. She had entered quietly, doubted by many, but she was leaving as the champion. She did not shout or raise her arms in victory. She only smiled softly, her heart filled with calm pride. The men who had mocked her lowered their eyes, unable to say a word. The instructor, however, stepped forward and shook her hand warmly. You've proved yourself today, Mira, and this is only the beginning. As the sun set, Rosa walked beside Mira with glowing pride. You are not just a simple woman anymore. You're someone everyone will remember. Mira looked ahead, her smile gentle but strong. I was always the same person. Rosa. They are just starting to see it now. Winning the town competition changed many things for Mira. People who once looked at her as just a quiet woman from the bakery now spoke of her with respect. When she walked through the marketplace, neighbors greeted her warmly. Some asked for stories about the competition. Others encouraged her to keep going and represent the town in bigger events. At first, Mira felt shy about all the attention, but slowly she accepted it with calm grace. She continued her work at the bakery, greeting customers with the same gentle smile. But after closing hours, she dedicated her evenings to practice at the shooting range. The instructor guided her more seriously now, teaching her advanced techniques, adjusting her stance, and showing her how to handle different kinds of challenges. Rosa never left her side. She came to watch practice sessions, clapped after every shot, and kept Mira's confidence high whenever doubt tried to sneak in. Mira, she would say, you have a gift. Do not hide it. The world needs to see what you can do. One day, the instructor brought surprising news. He approached Mira after training and said, There is a regional competition happening in the nearby city. It gathers the best shooters from different towns. I want you to take part. You have already proved yourself here. Now it is time to step onto a bigger stage. Mira's eyes widened. A regional competition? That sounds too big for me. I am not sure I belong there. The instructor shook his head firmly. You do belong there. Talent like yours should not stay hidden. You are not just good for this town. You are good enough to stand among the best. Rosa clapped her hands in excitement. Yes, Mira. You must go. Imagine the pride of our town when they hear your name announced in the city. You can inspire so many people. Though nervous, Mira agreed. She realized that fear would always be there. But courage was not about avoiding fear, it was about stepping forward despite it. She decided to enter the regional competition. On the day of the event, Mira traveled with Rosa and the instructor to the city. The arena was much larger than anything she had seen before. Rows of seats were filled with spectators. Judges sat with serious faces, and competitors looked sharp with polished gear and years of experience behind them. Mira stood quietly, feeling small in comparison, but Rosa squeezed her hand and whispered, Remember, you don't have to be like them. You just have to be you. The rounds began. The early stages tested accuracy at different distances. Mira performed steadily, hitting bullseyes with the same calm focus she had shown back in her town. Each shot made the crowd murmur in surprise. People who had never heard of her began to ask, Who is she? Where did she come from? By the third round, Mira was standing among the top competitors. The pressure grew heavier, but she did not let it break her. She remembered her bakery, her quiet mornings, and her belief that patience was stronger than noise. She breathed, aimed, and fired with steady hands. Her competitors started to notice her presence more seriously. One man who was known for winning several contests whispered to another, This woman is dangerous. She is too consistent. The fourth round tested speed. Targets appeared for only a short moment before disappearing. Mira had never trained for such a challenge, but she trusted her focus. While others rushed and missed, she waited for the exact moment and fired with precision. To everyone's amazement, she cleared the round with nearly perfect shots. The crowd erupted in cheers. For the first time, Mira looked up and realized how many people were now supporting her. It gave her strength. When the final round arrived, only 3 competitors remained, including Mira. The challenge was the hardest yet, moving targets at long distance. Many doubted Mira would keep up, since this was advanced even for trained shooters. The first competitor went and missed 2 out of 5. The second competitor missed 1. Then it was Mira's turn. Rosa shouted from the stands, "You can do it, Mira, just breathe and trust yourself." Mira raised her gun, her heart steady. The first moving target flew by and she struck it. The second followed, another clean hit. The third moved faster, but she hit it too. By the fourth, the crowd was leaning forward, silent with anticipation. She fired, another perfect shot. Now came the last one. It was the fastest and trickiest. Mira focused harder than ever before, waiting for the right second. She squeezed the trigger and the bullet struck true.